Okay. Well, we're getting ready. The next paper is a joint effort from the University of Saskatchewan and Sinclair, Canada. The authors are Christian Botchwey, Alvin Delay, and John Botchwey. And the title is Synthesis, Characterization, and Activity Studies of Aluminum-Supported Diphosphorus Tungsten Nitride Catalyst. The paper is going to be given today by Christian Botchwey.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and welcome to my presentation. I'm going to speak on synthesis characterization and modeling studies of nickel phosphorus tungsten nitride catalyst. The objective of this work is mainly to synthesize, characterize, and model the HDN, ADS, and ADA activities of tungsten nitride catalyst. The catalyst was synthesized based on an experimental design. Nickel loading was up to 8 weight %, phosphorus loading of up to 5 weight %. The nitriding temperature was kept between 500 and 800, and tungsten loading was initially kept at 13 weight %. The nitriding process followed this trend. Initially, the temperature was increased in a flow of helium up to about 400 degrees Celsius. And then ammonia was introduced and further increased up to the nitriding temperature, where it was kept for about 5 hours. After that, the process was quenched, and then the catalyst was precipitated in an oxygen atmosphere. The catalysts that were synthesized were characterized, and some interesting results were obtained from the BET surface area analysis. As nickel was loaded onto the support, it was observed that the BET surface area decreased gradually, but the temperature had the most effect on the BET surface area. And it was interesting to see that as temperature was increased, the BET surface area increased. And we are thinking as temperature increased, it increased the dispersion on the catalyst, and that was why the BET surface area also increased. A similar trend was seen in the pore diameter of the catalysts that were prepared. In a similar manner, as temperature was increased, the pore diameter of the catalyst also increased. Then scanning electron microscopy was performed on 2 different catalysts at 2 different temperatures. That is, one at 800 degrees Celsius and the other at 650 degrees Celsius. And over here, we could see that at the lower temperature, you have a cluster of large particles on the surface compared to the 800 degrees Celsius, which seem to be nicely dispersed. So this also goes to suggest that at high temperatures, we seem to be getting smaller particles on the surface of the catalyst compared to the lower temperatures. Elemental analysis of some selected catalysts showed a good agreement between the observed composition and the expected one. For instance, at 4 weight % nickel, we observed around 3.9 weight %. And at 2.5% phosphorus, we had about 2.3 weight %. EDX spectra of selected catalysts indicated the presence of tungsten, nickel, phosphorus on the surface of the catalyst. Nitrogen was not observed here, perhaps because it was below detection. Then X-ray diffraction of the synthesized catalyst showed that for the alumina support, we have mainly the alumina peaks. And this is an oxide catalyst of nickel and tungsten on alumina. Because of high dispersion, we didn't really see any major difference between this and that. But for tungsten nitride catalyst, we saw the appearance of tungsten nitride peaks on the surface of the catalyst. Then when nickel and phosphorus was incorporated, there were further changes on the surface of the catalyst, indicating the presence of nickel nitride on the surface of the catalyst. Then the catalyst was tested for HDS, ATN, and HDA using light gas oil feed from Athabasca bitumen. The sulfur content was about 1.68%, and nitrogen was about 525 parts per million. This is the experimental setup. It was mainly a micro trickle bed reactor, and we use a downflow mode. This slide shows the results obtained from the ADN activity studies. And the results were modeled by this equation. What we observed was mainly as you increase nickel loading at high phosphorus loading, you have very high activity of HDN. On the other hand, when you increase nickel loading at low phosphorus loading, you have a very low ADN activity. The ADS activity was modeled by a quadratic equation. So mainly you have the activity going out to a point and then decreasing. Similarly, aromatic hydrogenation was also modeled by the same trend. That is, you have the activity going up to a point and then decreasing. Then the catalyst tungsten content was increased further. That is, initially it was kept at 13 weight percent. We wanted to see how that also affected the activity of the catalyst. So we used 15 weight percent, 20 weight percent, and 25 weight percent. And we could see that for HDS, the activity increased with increasing the tungsten loading. However, we cannot say the same thing about HDN. At low temperatures, 20 weight percent loading seemed to have very high activity compared to even 25 weight percent. But at the high temperatures, you have a similar trend following as the HDS. Then prior to the activity studies, the catalyst was stabilized. And one thing we observed was some of the catalysts seemed to be increasing in activity with time on stream. And that seemed to suggest that the catalyst is being converted to the sulfide phase. However, when you look at some of the catalysts, they seem to be pretty stable and there is no increase in the activity of the catalyst with time. With this particular one, we thought that maybe it is a way that we introduce the feed. The first feed that was introduced was a heavy feed. So we thought that maybe that may have an effect on the activity of the catalyst. So later we performed another test where we introduced a lighter feed. And in that case, we didn't see any trend where the catalyst activity was increasing. What we saw was the usual trend that is seen in commercial catalysts, with the activity decreasing and then stabilizing. Zanes were performed on some fresh catalysts and some spent catalysts to see if we can find any sulfide phases on the catalyst. But unfortunately, we didn't see any sulfide phases on the surface of the catalyst. The phases that we saw appear to be phosphate phases rather on the surface of the catalyst. Then we went on to perform X-ray diffraction studies on the fresh and the spent catalyst. And over here we got somehow different results. What we observed was that with the fresh catalyst, we have the tungsten nitride phase and the nickel nitride phase in place. But when we look at the spent catalyst, we have a modification of the phase, which seems to coincide with, or which seems to suggest that tungsten sulfide is on the surface of the catalyst. However, what we still see here is the nitride phase, the nickel nitride phase and the tungsten nitride phases are still intact. So there seems to be some modification on the catalyst surface. However, the nitride phases are still intact. And this we think might be because perhaps there is some oxide phase on the catalyst which was not converted to the nitride phase. So as the catalyst is exposed to the light gas soil, those oxide phases are converted to sulfide rather than the nitride phases being converted to sulfide. So based on this work, we can conclude that high nitriding temperatures tend to increase tungsten nitride surface areas. Then nickel phosphorus ratio of about 1.6 gives the best HPN activity in the range of parameters studied. 8DS and 8DA were modeled by quadratic equations, while 8DN was modeled by two-factor interaction equations. Nickel nitride and tungsten nitride are among the active species on the catalyst surface. Then lastly, the tungsten nitride catalyst surface is slightly modified during hydrotreating. However, the nitride phase is kept intact in the process. Now I want to acknowledge Dr. Tolai and Dr. Ajay for their support and financial support from NSED, Synchro Canada, and the University of Saskatchewan. Thank you.
We have time for some questions. No questions? Thank you very much, Christian. We have about a couple of minutes. The next presentation comes from the Chemical and Petroleum Engineering at the University of Calgary. Title, Ultra-Dispersed Catalyst for Hydrotreating, Preparation, Variable Effects and Fixed Bed Test Comparison with Conventional Catalyst. The authors are Alejandro Vasquez and Pedro Pereira, and paper will be presented by Alejandro Vasquez.
Thank you. Okay. I'd like to start by giving a North American oil outlook presented by the Energy Information Administration in their early release of 2006, where they predict that the energy consumption in North America will increase considerably in the next 25 years. Now, with this into account, the oil reserves that we have in North America are mainly in Canada, more than 80%. And this 80% is mainly of heavy crude oil and conventional crude oil. So new technologies are needed to upgrade these oils to have more light oil derivatives. So our group is targeting ultra-dispersed catalysts, which with the use of no support at all, just dispersing the active metals into the feed to be hydrotreated or hydrocracked, depending on the use that is needed. And for this particular study, we're focusing only in hydrotreating. Now, the main advantages of ultra-dispersed catalysts with the supported catalysts is that they have a greater surface area of completely accessible active sites. We have no problem of pore clogging or forming coke in the matrix. Therefore, we have a higher catalytic activity. We also have the versatility of changing the metal compounds that are used at any time in the process, change their concentrations and even the catalytic phases. Of course, channeling is avoided because we're not using a fixed bed, which allow us to run for longer times as the catalyst goes in and out of the reactor with the feed and goes out with the product. And there's a potential to recover this catalyst once it goes through the reactor. Now, the disadvantages of this technology is that, of course, it's a pioneer technology. It's there's not too much research done about it, and the process in where we want to use the ultra-dispersed catalyst is still under development. Now, here's to give you an example of application of how we could use the ultra-dispersed catalyst. We will have an ultra-dispersed catalyst unit where the catalyst is pre-formed, and it will be delivered to any hydrotreated of heavy naphtha, vacuum gas oils, etc. And for this particular story, only for hydrotreating, as hydrocracking is not considered for the moment. Now, the methodology used to form these ultra-dispersed catalysts was using microemulsion where we have the catalyst precursors and dispersing these precursors into the feed by removing any other compounds that we have in the microemulsions. We form several sulfide and non-sulfide formulations of the regular hydrotreating metals, which are molybdenum, tungsten, nickel, and cobalt, and we study the variables study were temperature and pressure at which we form these particles and the catalytic phases that we obtain. Now, here's a sample of how we perform the dispersion. Once we have the microemulsion, we put it through a decomposition zone where we form, from the precursor, we form the metals and disperse them into the oil media. Then we enter a hot separator where we remove any surfactant or protein media that we included into the microemulsion, and we obtain, in this case, we use VGO and the ultra-dispersed catalyst. Now, once we obtain that VGO with the ultra-dispersed catalyst dispersed, we characterize it by different means. First of all, we want to see the actual particle size of the metals we're forming. And we use the dynamic light scattering methodology to get a particle size of this catalyst in the same oil medium. Now, the problem with the other characterization that we perform on this catalyst is that we have to remove the catalyst from the oil phase in order to measure the BEG area and their activity test. Now, for the dynamic light scattering characterization, we obtain a particle size between 200 and 700 nanometers, depending on the catalytic phase we formed and from the precursors we were starting off. And we obtain surface area in the range of 10 to 60 square meters per gram, also depending on the catalyst phase that we obtain. Now, to give you an example, I'm going to show you an SEM image that we got. And remember that this is an agglomerated that we form in order to separate the catalyst from the oil media, as it was completely dispersed in the oil media, and you couldn't even see the catalyst in the oil. You could only see a change of color in the oil. Here in this picture, we can see how we have a big agglomerate formed by very small particles, and also we see big particles that we are not sure if they're formed by the process of getting them, of remove them from the oil, or they were formed in the process of dispersing them.